I am going to start with changes to the agenda. The first change to the agenda is that we will not be hearing an administrative report this time. The second change to the agenda is the word tree will be stricken from our agenda for this evening. And that's it. Next, public participation. Before we get started with that, I'd like to read something. Public comment is not legally required, but we do believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, and that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. Public comment period is not designed for discussion. I would also like to start with an announcement, and that is that I'm going to beat you to it, Kate.
You guys always do.
I just want to publicly congratulate sixth grader Natalie Ranney today for making it all the way to the National Junior Olympic cross country finals in College Station, Texas over the weekend. While she didn't win, boy, was that an extraordinary win every single step along the way. Congratulations.
Senior Liam Atwood also went.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay.
Congratulations.
See, we shared the good news though.
Atwood.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Liam. That was really, really remarkable. Okay, Daniel Wirtz, I see your hand up for a public discussion.
Thank you. Soundtrack okay?
No.
Thank you. Well, since it's struck from the agenda, I guess you can call this public participation for item not on the agenda, because I would like to read something I put together around what I assume to be behind the tree agenda item and some of the happenings from there. Especially when it comes to the involvement of the DEI coordinator. In a very recently hired position, explicitly listed on the job description as an activist. To my view, the situation that kind of spun out from the tree into the school was a bit of a manufactured softball for the DEI coordinator to signal their virtue as a nice ally to the politically sympathetic board and let it fly from there with everybody willingly or turning the other joining in a bit of repressive tolerance against Tara, Tom, Paul, and some other people with the town of Windsor. Again, I've made some, I think, fair warnings about this. To me, this position is explicitly an activist. They're going to create problems out of situations, twist realities where they can be made for some type of political or power advantage or to advance some cause. And if it comes to it, use school kids as pawns to get what they want. Let petitions fly, let pamphlets fly. It doesn't matter if anything they say in them is true, right? I think everyone's kind of complicit for the situation in signing off the creation of the position in the first place and helping hire for it and creating the environment that exists around it. Kind of, to put it frankly, helping create good little activists in the school and grooming students into specific political ideologies. Plainly evident with everything around this tree issue with the town, the pamphlets, the petition, anything for deeper societal acceptance that you could classify under the LGBTQ plus agenda. My view of it anyway. I'm about half done if that's okay, but stop me if not. Something that was on the job description for the DEI coordinator was, quote, ensuring safe and brave spaces within our community, quote. And I don't know where you'd break that down with this situation or how you define safe space, as ridiculous as that concept itself is. But it seems like it only applied to those who could be claimed to be part of some victimized class, supposedly. Didn't seem to apply to officials of the town of Windsor, some of whom have kids in the schools and some of whom who were knowingly outright lied about, called homophobic, alleged to have created actual harm, just ridiculous things. I would think, and what I was hoping to see out of the tree agenda item was a bunch of people making apologies to these people, but frankly, the DEI coordinator himself as well, publicly and perhaps even distributing materials to students like they did the pamphlets, but maybe with this time a bit more of a story of reality rather than lies designed to further a cause. And I also want to point out that it's in the DEI coordinator's direct. Stop me.
I'm stopping you because none of this has anything to do with the DEI coordinator. None of it. So I'm not, and further, the DEI coordinator position is at the SU level, not at our district level.
You'll have to hear other sides of the story, I suppose.
What's that?
There's other sides of the story to hear from what I could tell, and there was organization, there was material creation and distribution. I have about a paragraph.
As far as our school board goes, we don't really have anything to do at this level with the DEI coordinator. We are strictly here for the Manascutney School District. The tree issue is not going to be addressed tonight because it is not currently a school matter. So
agree to disagree. I think you're doing a good job deepening the complete ideological capture of the schools. And well, if I'm cut off, I'm cut off. I will share in writing my whole thing for the record.
Right. Any other public participation?
Is this where we do the component for leader and me?
I'm sorry?
Is this the leader and me part, or is this on a different part of the agenda?
It's after,
It's after? Okay.
yeah, but we missed the approval of minutes,
I'm sorry.
I think. I don't remember.
Okay, we'll do it after this. Is there any other public participation? Okay, hearing none, I will, I have to recuse myself from the minutes since you ran the, well, I can still take a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
And let's see, Rebecca, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I am, what do you call it?
Abstain.
Abstain, thank you. Thank you, I abstain. So the next thing is, budget is next. What's that?
The students.
Students.
Oh.
We have a short focus on learning.
Focus on learning, I'm sorry, it wasn't on the agenda, I apologize.
Okay.
Focus on learning.
At this point, Annalise, do you want to see if you can share your screen?
Yes, just hold on 1 second, okay?
We've changed a couple of agenda items, FYI. We've removed the tree from the agenda, and as you may have heard, but we've also removed the admin report.
Oh. Thanks.
It works for me. I like it.
So Albert Bridge is presenting tonight.
All right.
I will focus on learning, see what they're up to. And Annalise is gonna spearhead it, I believe.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I'm here today with Jennifer to share kind of what we're doing in Albert Bridge and how we are incorporating Leader in Me. I feel like it's important to kind of start with highlighting the things that we already were doing in our school to kind of show how putting in Leader in Me is kind of gone with some of the things that we already have going. So some of the supports that we already have is responsive classroom. This is something that all of our teachers use in terms of classroom management. This allows our students to role model the behaviors we want to see in our students versus focusing on the negative or the challenging behaviors. We find this to be very successful for our students because it gives them not only the information of seeing peers modeling it, so that visual, but it also helps them in the terms of peer motivation. Along with responsive classroom, we use CARES, which is cooperation, assertiveness, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. And this starts incorporating in our students starting in kindergarten and working throughout their whole life at Albert Bridge. Then we have Think Kids as our collaborative problem solving. A majority of our staff has had various forms of CPS training with people like myself as certified, also as well as Jennifer. And then we've been also engaging in restorative practices, so circling up. We've been doing this for both, you know, when it comes to like making rules in the classroom, how to make our classroom environment like warm and friendly, and then also using it to restore any kind of situations that might have transpired in a classroom due to some challenging behaviors. And then all of these practice and supports fall in line with us being we have a very good base of trauma-informed teachers and support staff. And so that's kind of how they all kind of click together. And then we also being a play-based learning, our students are really enriched in our community, not just our school community, but our overall community. You can see here, we have pictures of our first grade students. They're actually trying to make number one, because we had this great program that came in where they talked about how to do aerial mapping of our school. We have students that are off to the side that are at our butcher and pantry. So having relationships with Peter and Lauren at the butcher and pantry. Then obviously at Ascutney Outdoors, Shelly Seward is great at opening up the doors, and the kids really have learned this great amount of community and how to respect community and, you know, paying back. So like when they do something special for us, then we make sure that we reciprocate. And then when it came to then, you know, coming in with some of the habits of Leader in Me, we've started to do is incorporate it by using the things that we already had, which was our like responsive classroom the first 6 weeks, and then tying them into the Leader in Me material that goes along, you know, picking out different curriculum that goes with our responsive classroom language, that kind of goes in with our already established values. One of the things that's really important in our morning meetings is, and this is for our whole school, this is before we even go inside, our students recite this message, which is, I am part of this community. I belong here. I am valued. I'm cared for. I am curious, creative, and caring. I am a leader. My voice matters. And so those students respond, and we keep that mantra going throughout the year. And this hangs actually in our front doors. So even visitors just coming into our school can see that this is the message we all have for each other as well as our students. Another thing that has happened is that we have our fifth and sixth grade students who are coming in and they're modeling the behavior in the terms of how to greet each other, the importance of making eye contact, stating to them, do you want a fist pump or an elbow? These are all skills that they've been practicing throughout their ABS learning career. And they were wonderful because they actually were like, can we do this? And it was like, of course you can. So this has been fun. The same as these students have taken in the initiative of taking care of our community. We came in this morning and our sidewalks had yet to be shoveled. And so instead of complaining, these students grabbed shovels and began to clear away and got other people engaged in it. So we've got some great leaderships going on. As in terms of leadership, like Leader and Me and incorporating, one of the things that we've incorporated is in our 5th and 6th grade class, using the stress continuum, which also has a little bit of the zones of regulations placed in there in the colors, and having students use that when we talk about seeking to understand before being understood. So talking about the importance of, you know, if you're going to have a challenging conversation with the peer, like, you know, both of you are very heated about who is supposed to have the soccer ball. Where are you on the stress continuum? How can we regulate first so that, you know, you can have that conversation and both parties can be understood. They've also been learning about put things first. So learning the habit of prioritizing things that are necessary but not urgent, to then have the ability to handle situations that come forward that are necessary but urgent. In our 2nd grade, students have been talking about what makes somebody who's a leader. And so using things like CARES and talking about how that works. And we had a fun time. We did it by doing a gingerbread man. Like, how would you make a gingerbread man into a leader? And all the students said, the first ingredients you had to have was self-control, because if you can't have self-control, then nothing else matters. So our self-control was our flower. Our 1st grade students are learning about Aesop's fables, and each student is going to have a fable, and they're going to take this, they're doing it with the end in mind. So how does their end goal want to be? Their end goal is that they're going to be doing a puppet show for their peers in a shadow puppet, and they're going to take Aesop fables and bring it to life with their own initiative. So they're going to figure out what kind of puppets they need, how do they puppets are going to look, how do they want their peers to think about it, and they're very, very excited about it. It's going to be very fun. When it came to recess, we started having students do a great job about advocating. The first thing we established was leadership roles in recess. So having kids who modeled some skills that we wanted our other students to see in terms of like setting up recess activities. And then from there, it started to grow where students began to advocate for things that they wanted during recess time. So drawing club was started by a student advocating for herself. She did a wonderful job by stating that not everybody understands or feel comfortable with recess. And with that, we worked and helped her organize the drawing club. So every day, she or another 5th grade student teaches a drawing activity. And then students grade 1st through 6th, they can either participate in that drawing activity or they do a free draw. But if you participate in the drawing activity, she has this great notebook that's going along where she takes every drawing that the kids want to share. They cut them out, they paste it in there so that they can reflect on their drawing skills from the beginning to advancing throughout the year. And the same goes for a dance party. It was started in a similar way with a group of girls in grades 3 through 4 advocating for an area to dance, to make up dance routines and listen to music. We have these great headphones that are silent disco headphones. And so everyone is hearing the same song. They advocated for dimming the lights because they felt like that was more comfortable in expressing themselves. And I've noticed it also has helped them be a little bit more aware about their bodies. So there is bumping into each other, but it's not, it's like a, I guess, skilled bumping in, if that's such a thing. So here is one of our students talking about drawing club.
Hi, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what's going on here in Drawing Club.
It provides creativity. how we started is Lucy here, the main builder of this. She had the idea of that some people don't want to go outside and do the activities, and they don't want to just go outside or do stuff inside. They need to be creative, and she's like, well, I could build this so everyone could so they could be more creative and see what they can do.
Why I started this in the first place is because I noticed that some people had a hard time with sports or just things that they had a hard time with, like emotionally almost.
Yeah, so being outside for recess was tough on some kids.
Because for socializing or doing dance parties and stuff that sometimes we do. And so I started this drawing club. A bunch of kids can just come here, we'll just come here and draw, and sometimes, and eventually maybe we'll do paint, I don't know.
Maybe.
Tape and scissors and all that good stuff.
Drawing.
Mostly.
With
So there's absolutely no teacher direction, and it is totally controlled by the students in this group. And a couple of them will serve as like the mentors, and they will do like checks to see if you're ready for the next level of challenge. And so there's like 3 stations, and it's pretty remarkable the way they've worked it out. But like, I could leave that room and there's no problem.
Yeah.
Never a problem. It's great.
And Lucy, they have a whole box that can has all of the different like drawing agendas. We've actually, they've set themselves up better than like, any of us could ever imagine. It's absolutely wonderful. And any adult who gets to supervise, we feel like we get like a little bit of a break.
Hi, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what's.
All right, then the next one was dance party. And so the first time we started, you can see it's just like a small number of kids. The best is that they are listening to music. And then within a couple weeks, this is what what has happened.
Recess reimagined right there.
And the little one in the middle who's kind of taking center stage wanted to know if I was going to put it on YouTube. The things that have been really successful about our student-driven recess is that it's created student-led activities. Students are setting up spaces and returning them to normal without adult direction, or very little adult direction. Like at the end of dance party, I can say, oh, guys, time to put the room back. And they all put the tables back. They take the headphones. They put them on chargers. They're very strong about advocating that, like somebody's not using it responsibly. They help them with it. The older kids, like in the dance party, when they come in and they're looking for headphones, they make sure the headphones are working for that child, that it's on. If there's a problem, they help them problem solve, and then they come to me. So they're aiding in the dance party, and both with the drawing techniques. We've had less peer-to-peer conflict because they've been heavily engaged in activities that they're liking. It's their choice. And they are busily brainstorming about future recess activities to come. So it's been a wonderful thing to see. And then here's our last one. What's my superpower? We just have a couple kids for this.
Hi, my name is Lexi, and my superpower is win-win.
Hi, my name is Lucy, and my superpower is cooperation.
And
All the kids in the 5th and 6th grade classes have their art thing. They had to create their own kind of crown to wear, and they expressed their superpower through their crown. It's very cute.
so that's it.
Thank
We should all go to that dance party.
Yeah.
I knew you were gonna have your eye on that.
It's so much fun. And actually, I think like this could be my new exercise routine. This is how I'll get back in shape.
Rebecca, I see your hand.
Thank you, Annalise. That was just wonderful. That really was. One of the questions I have is I know that ABS has been engaged in many, many activities, and the little that I have, seen about or read on Leader in Me, I kind of find that they have real specific activities, and yet I find in some of the activities that the kids are engaged in seem so much more relaxed, so much more appropriate age. And so I'm wondering, is there sometimes, can there be a conflict sort of integrating into a program when you have a lot of that already in place? Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that we have spent a lot of time trying to look at the different curriculum and resources that are in Leader in Me and picking the ones that, first of all, already go with language and values that we have in our community as a school, and then finding ways to incorporate it with things that we already use. If that makes sense.
Yeah, just to add to that, we have been working with Barb, who's our consultant on this, and we talk about some of the challenges as we come up, like how do we make these things match in a way that makes sense for what we've already had in place, and what do we need to change that's already in place if we need to change something to be more in line. So she's given us a lot of flexibility to make it work for us. But the basic tenets, the 7 habits, technically the 8 habits, they're solid. They don't conflict with anything that we've put in place so far.
Go ahead.
What strikes me about every time we've seen these Leader in Me presentations, and it's great to see what's going on at Albert Bridge, having seen what's going on at I think every level of Windsor School now. It is not only how creative the students are when they engage in this, but how happy they are. And I think that that's really important to reflect on and take in. There's so I just read this fantastic book on leadership by Patrick Lencioni called The 3 Signs of a Miserable Job. And in reading it and thinking about this setting, though, I was like, you don't when you're working a job, you don't want to be miserable. When students come to school, they don't want to be miserable, and we, as educators and administrators and board members, we don't want them to be miserable either. And when you allow for this kind of agency and collective leadership in a student's body, so that the 3 things, just to I don't want to bring that up and drop it. The 3 things that tend to make people miserable in this model is immeasurability, anonymity, and I knew I was going to forget the 3rd one here. But impact, like lack of impact. And I think that, in school, you get measured all the time. You're getting given grades. You kind of know that part of it. But as an individual, as a person, when you can collectively lead, you get that agency. You get to be the one who's leading the group or bringing up ideas. You get seen, and you see the impact of what you're doing. You have some ownership on it. I think that, I see that in all these things that our students are doing. And it's awesome. It's so cool. I love to see this program kind of come to fruition, and I can't wait to see where it goes in the coming years.
And they've done a great job. dovetailing it with things that they're doing already. But it is, I mean, I was at a dance party and the kids they're leading it. They're empowered, right? They came up with it. They're happy. They're joyous. They're not, there's no conflict.
They create the rules when there is conflict.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Which is the beauty of it.
Yeah, and I'm sure that when conflict happens too, when you have that kind of a framework, because I mean, conflict is part of learning, but you can have constructive conflict. You can navigate it, and you can come out with a little bit more than you started with.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Thank you, Annalise.
Thanks, Annalise.
That was great.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, returning to the agenda, the budget is next.
Great. I think I get to kick us off here with this amazing cool clicker that Jen just gave me. And I would say, as a little bit of context and an inroad for myself, is that this feels like an incredibly exciting time to be here in the Scottsdale School District and Windsor Southeast in general. I've worked with a lot of schools, and there is a lot going on here right now. It's incredibly positive, it's student-focused, community-focused. There are great people here. There is the sense that I get, and I think I can provide a little bit of this context as I'm relatively new here, kind of like we're riding a wave right now. So I think a lot of what you will hear in our budget presentation today is that forward momentum of the wave, taking this school district and SU forward. The rough outline for our budget presentation tonight, if I'm going to use the metaphor, I'm going to just throw metaphors all around tonight, is going to start at the 30,000-foot view with our framework, our philosophical alignment, what we value as a Mount Scotty School District, and obviously WSCSU as well. And then we'll take it down into layers of specificity down into the budget. So Jen will follow with some of the programs and specific staffing roles and strategies that we'll be investing in. And then Kate and Colleen will take us down into the specifics of budget strategies and asks and numbers. So I'm going to start us off here. Oops, not my computer. This
Yeah,
one.
sorry, I'm going to present. Do this. And now the question is, can we do it this way? No, let's see if that works. Are you guys seeing it on yours? No.
Okay, our FY24 budget framework and strategic plan for Mount Scotty School District, obviously in Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union. I'm not sure where this quote comes from, so I have to credit it somewhere, but essentially I like to think of a budget as a value statement. It is on paper and in numbers and in structure what we as a school community value and wish to take forward in the service of our students and our community. Our budget framework this year for FY24 is focused on engaging all students, supporting a culture of learning for all, and communicating with efficacy for equity. Obviously, all of this ties us into something that we all know pretty well, work that this SU and school district has been engaged in for quite some time. I won't go into all of the aspects of the strategic plan, but just wanted to note with importance that all of the work and all of the work on the budget and strategies that you will see in the later slides here tie back to and use the strategic plan as our North Star. What we're focused on, what we're heading towards, what we are using to guide our work in helping our students and our community. So, Portrait to the Pathway, Be the Voice is something that you see everywhere, and I hope you see as we get into this budget a little bit more that this work is all centered on our strategic plan. that our community has worked on together, that we have through many community forums and working groups, so on and so forth, and brought forth input from the community to create this vision that really is of our community school district. And I think that's really important for a budget. I'll just touch on sort of the big three pillars, if you will, of the strategic plan. And again, we're still sort of at the 30,000 foot level, and then I'll hand it over to Jen to take us down into some of the specifics of this budget. So student success and engagement, Manascutney School District and SU will improve students' learning experiences because the personal, educational, vocational, and civic successes of our students are increasingly challenged in a rapidly changing world, what we're heading towards. So our robust work on our learning frameworks, making sure that our evidence-based best practices are in place across the school district and supervisory union, that we have a robust assessment system to better understand the learning needs of our students. You'll see that in some of the later slides to support, again, that deeper learning and understanding. Students learn of themselves and are able to engage in and use to go forward. And extended learning opportunities into real world, project-based learning, and all of the other incredible things that you will see further on. Also, culture and student wellness. The Manascutney School District and SU will strengthen and broaden the connections between and among staff and the core work of education in pursuit of greater staff engagement, well-being, innovation, inclusion, and resolve. Now, go back briefly to what I said at the beginning, is that there are amazing people in SU and in the school district and all of these buildings who deeply care about students, passionate educators, and the budget here is to support obviously our students, but also to support our educators and the folks who help bring student learning forward across this building and in all our buildings. That's collaborative practices, us working together at all levels, really modeling for our student community what that looks like. And of course, our diversity work through DEI initiatives, curriculum policy, our equity audit, all of that stuff. That's sort of some of the wave that I was speaking to. It's really exciting, this school district moving forward. Manascutney and the Windsor, sorry, I'm from Windham County, so I slip into that every once in a while. I used to serve on a school board in Windham County, so apologies in advance. I know this is Windsor, I'll just throw that out there. Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union will further integrate the whole student into their education so that students increasingly see relevance, purpose, and connections between their learning experiences and their individual and collective lives. Davis, I wasn't planning on you sharing what you shared, but sort of speaking again, we all want student agency and engagement, and that ultimately leads to happier, more engaged students. And that's, I think, what we're certainly all about. So obviously a focus on student mental health, social emotional learning, and those critical aspects of being in school. And our third pillar, leading towards that strategic plan, information and communication. Manascutney School District and Windsor Southeast will improve the quality and effectiveness of its two-way communication so that stakeholder trust, understanding, and support continue to advance the education of and opportunities for its students. So that is robust data practices, information gathering, and communication all around. That we are seeking to elicit the thoughts and concerns and hopes and dreams of our students and our community, that we are using robust data practices to better understand the needs and outcomes, and that we are communicating our progress and work for greater accountability and transparency. The end of the school thing.
Right, so going down to the, what did you call it?
I think I was at 30,000 feet, so down to 20, maybe. 15, 20.
All right, so we'll get a little bit into what our budget really is trying to continue to support, things that we've already put in place and ways that we've sort of adjusted moving forward. So we talk about different levels of learning, and we talk about first our universal support, our universal approach, which is all kids deserve a certain amount of education at their grade level with their peers. And we try to do that in a way that meets the kids' needs through things like universal design for learning, differentiated approaches, as well as double dosing. And so part of what we're doing here is trying to make sure that we have good, solid classroom instruction through connected curriculum. We've got structures in place like responsive classroom, leader in need, positive behavior interventions and supports to help support how we teach children, students, how to act, how to be, not just assuming that they all come in with the same set of understanding, because we don't. We all come from different backgrounds. And to get us on the same page, we actually have to do a lot more teaching than maybe we used to think we needed to. And then from there, we move to how we support when kids don't get it, when our universal supports aren't working. So one part is looking at the universal supports. Is there more we need to do there, or something we need to change? But even then, when that doesn't work, we use what we call interventions. And so in the interventions, we're looking at both academic and social and emotional interventions. So as Kate and Colleen go through the budget, I think Kate's doing most of the details and numbers. You might hear some of this stuff come out in the budget as we're trying to look at more and more areas where we're pinpointing needs for our students in order for them to get what they need so that they can move forward with their peers. We're also working more as a whole SU, and certainly within our district, in trying to unify our curriculum in a way that allows us to share data and talk through challenges and learning in a way that supports teachers being able to be more creative and more fluid in their practice. And one of the ways that we try to support our students' learning is by these kind of more unified curriculum blocks of learning, as well as interdisciplinary learning. As Sergio mentioned, collaboration, continuing to find ways to put in common planning time across the SU within our schools so teachers can talk with each other and plan and talk about what students are learning, where they're struggling, so we can get some more ideas on the table and not leaving it up to one teacher to have to figure it out an entire class all by themselves. As well as continue to support professional learning across their supervisory union and believe that every adult in this building is here for every child. So no child belongs to one person, every child belongs to all of them. So high quality instruction and interventionists will show up really looking at, and Kate will talk some more about this, just specifically where we're looking at some intervention needs to shore up some of the kids who have some gaps that aren't being navigated in the universal world. And we've got a pretty high number of kids, not unexpectedly after the COVID pandemic, that need some extra support there, as well as instructional coaches. So one of the things we're looking at as educators is when we are able to reflect and get feedback on an ongoing basis that is not judgmental, that supports our learning, it helps us grow as individual learners. And I don't know if any of you noticed this, but when you stop and watch yourself on a video, you learn so much more about yourself. So having somebody come in and give you an extra lens is incredibly helpful in helping us shift and understand how our teaching might be impacting students in a way we're not aware of, or something we may not be doing that may be more helpful for a student. We're partnering with not just any mentors. We know that the relationship between a child and a trusted adult is one of the most powerful things that we can offer some of our students. And then we have a very robust special education program, which Katie Ahern is taking the lead on, which really is working to integrate with our classroom teachers. So we're looking also, as we continue with kind of collective curriculum comprehensive assessments. So we've got a few different ways of looking at this. One is the traditional ways that people think about it in the classroom. So your math assessments or your ELA assessments. We've got other kinds of assessments that might be done through science, social studies, those kinds of things. And then we have these kind of next layer of assessments, track my progress. We're doing a pilot for STAR, which may take the place of track my progress if the team decides that that's a better way of looking at data. And what those do is take a snapshot in time of where a kid is in certain areas and is able to highlight, like in this continuum, let's say in math, in 6th grade geometry, your student can do this. and most kids at sixth grade at this point can do this. It gives you that kind of information. And then we have more specific pinpointed targeted assessments for 504 and special education evaluations. So we're connecting as we go through our budget, we're connecting to these areas. We talk about student success and engagement, really thinking about the different ways that kids learn, universal design for learning, making sure that learning has purpose. When we talk about project-based and place-based education, that is about making that connection to why we do the learning and helping them integrate it and keeping at the base of it, knowing that our social emotional wellness is essential in order for kids to access the academics. Our culture and student wellness, we're doing a ton of work here with Leader in Me this year, really pushing a lot of that into our classrooms to help create a culture. That being said, all of our schools have a culture already that we're weaving it into. The more we work together as adults, how we work together as adults is probably just as important as how we work with students. That's one of our beliefs, is that that is central to our growth. Yes.
What does WSCC stand for?
That's whole school, community, and child. I like to add an F at the end to it because I believe they actually leave out family. So this is the whole school, community, and child and family is it's an approach that looks at the wellness of the child through a larger lens of not just social, emotional, or academic. It looks at the components of like food and security and those kinds of things. It was started, was this with Obama? WSCC? Before that, do you remember when it was started? Before that, yeah. So it's a national program that we've been working with for quite some time. And right now it's mostly led by our nurses. Often we try to get our PE teachers involved in that as well as some of our social team members. Our food service program, if you guys don't know this, Craig is really passionate about the belief that feeding our students and teaching them about their wellness in terms of food is one of the most fundamental things we can give our students. And he looks to actively find ways to engage students in learning about not only what they eat, but where it comes from and where it goes afterwards. And when it comes to information and communication, voice is really important, and that's voice of the adults, it's voice of the students, it's voice of our community, it's a voice of our parents, really trying to find ways, as we've been doing, to give space for these conversations, collective conversations to happen, help us build an education program, a system that is better supportive of the community in which we are embedded in, and that's a part of our charge, I believe. And you'll see things like March Intensives, capstones. There's all kinds of other ways that you'll see kids presenting their information, and hopefully with Leader in Me, we're going to be seeing even more of this out in our community, or inviting our community, hopefully now more into schools now that we're out of the pandemic. So I wanted to take a moment to put in place kind of the next step of what I think is one of our big charges right now. As Sergio said, we're kind of riding a wave. I think right now there's a lot of cycles that are happening in the world, that happen in our education system, that happen in our culture, that happen in our societies, that we have a responsibility as public educators to actually try to interrupt the cycle. Because when we talk about every child, we have to think about where every child's coming from and where we want them to go. And what are those roadblocks that are going to get in the way? And what are those roadblocks that do consistently get in the way for groups of people? So when we're talking about children who experience trauma, adults who experience trauma, what that cycle is like, poverty, the cycle of poverty, and how that plays out in school when a kid comes to school as a 5-year-old from poverty and their families have a certain understanding and skill set and knowledge and access, how that perpetuates itself, the implicit biases with racism, those kinds of things. So that's a part of what we're really working to do, is find ways to make sure that all kids can get access. So we don't need to clean off the stairs, we need to clean off the ramps. And so it takes a little bit of mind shift set, and it takes some different resources. So just want to quickly go over the social emotional component and lay it out. It's a little hard to see, but let me just walk through it real quick. So this up here is what we would call our tiered systems of approach. So when we talk about interventions, we've got our universal instruction, then our double dosing. This is happening in the general classroom environment. And then when the data from there shows that a kid isn't getting it, then we look at more targeted interventions. And this is usually done in small groups, sometimes one-to-one, but usually small groups. And then there's more intensive interventions. And then there's like something very, very different. And so what we have at the universal instruction level, Leader in Me, all staff is involved in this. The whole staff, no matter what they're doing, is Leader in Me, responsive classroom for the younger grades, PBIS in some of our schools. Second steps is done at the universal level. Trauma-informed approaches, you'll notice, goes all the way across, as does down here the reflective practices, moving towards restorative practices. So reflective practices are necessary in order to engage in restorative practices, because if you're not making connections here by helping kids understand and people understand each other or themselves, you can't get to restore something. You have to build it first. And then from here, you've got at the kind of double dosing universal instruction, we've got collaborative problem solving, which can go all the way through. And then social thinking, psychological services, that should, go all the way through. And at the intensive, this is our behavior plan, safety care, and those kinds of things. So that's kind of the big ideas behind the social emotional components of the work that we're doing as we have it currently embedded. And here are the kids that we are serving. I shouldn't say that. Here are the numbers associated with the kids that we are serving for next year. That's our anticipated numbers. And with that, okay.
Yeah, sure. So I usually get to do the numbers because people don't like to do them. And I have to say I got the easiest job this year because we have lived and learned and it is very consistent from what we have learned over the past couple years. So these next couple slides, and was this slideshow shared with you?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm gonna share it all with you, but our next couple of slides are the breakdown of what has changed, where we're spending our money. I think the things that are worth pointing out is that we do want to add, if I can go back to this numbers for a sec, right now, these projected fifth graders are in fourth grade, and the plan was always to have 3 fourth grades, and it just didn't work out. Just a lot of things happened that had an impact. So they're still in 2. It is an extremely strong team. That being said, we don't. Oh, I forgot about that. I moved it on my computer. It's not there. We don't love it. So we want to add in that bubble teacher so that when we have a group like that current 4th grade or our current 8th grade, we have that opportunity to split them into 3.
Yep.
We want to add in an interventionist and an academic coach. Those are kind of the big things staffing wise. I had heard someone raise their hand, but I don't know who it is. Bill, don't raise your hand yet because I'm about to publicly apologize to you. So we also, when we had the capital reserve, Bill was really passionate about putting these, for lack of a better word, he knows more than I do, sound systems into our school. And I thought to myself, well, that's not how I spend the money, but his prerogative. We have built in the budget to put them in the rest of our classrooms, Bill. So I publicly apologize for doubting your idea. They do add to the education of our students. The teachers love them. Now you may speak, Bill.
Okay. Can you go back to the slide before?
Maybe.
Thank you. One more. With all the numbers, I think you skipped 2. The budget numbers.
No, so we're gonna share this with you. So this is, can I take you to the bottom line for a sec?
No, I just had a question about that slide.
What is it?
Well, I have to look at it.
Go back to the
All right,
first
Colleen's
one.
going to share it out with the school board.
Well, that's fine, but I have a question.
This was the one we were on.
That one. Okay, so what does Windsor school-wide mean?
So Windsor school-wide is like art teacher who teaches maybe some elementary classes and some high school classes and some middle school classes. They teach school. Whoa.
K through 12.
They teach school K through 12.
Okay. Thank you. That's my only question.
So the positions I mentioned are the ones that we want to add staffing wise. We do want to put money into the strategic plan and we have a strong teaching staff. And we're very, very fortunate. And, Mike Nicholson used the term nudging, the nudging along, we're moving along, and we want to give the teachers the money they need to move along and do that in terms of, if I go forward to kind of like our.
Wait, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I've got a question back there.
Go ahead.
So I saw that the total, not contracted services, the one back.
One more back, wages.
There's page
Sorry,
one.
yeah. So out of the total wages at Windsor, all of the Windsor schools, all of the Windsor, does this add back in all of the missing staffers the positions that weren't able to be?
So we never took them out.
Okay,
So yes,
that's what I was
that's the
wondering.
question. So it looks like, hey, look at new guy on the block putting up 25% there and thing. But that sixth grade generalist, even though it's broken down right there, that sixth grade generalist still goes into the elementary.
As does the bubble teacher.
As does the bubble teacher.
Also, the interventionist and the coach are in there, and an interventionist could be like 4 through 6 or 7. So it's not necessarily just in the Windsor elementary budget. And it has to go somewhere.
And in the high school, are you still thinking about adding was there a guidance counselor that was missing?
Yeah.
Still in there.
Still
Middle school, still in
Just-
there.
Okay.
Just didn't get the positions.
Right.
Candidates.
I just wanted to make sure that.
They're still in there.
Okay.
Thank you for
Just making
asking,
sure.
for making sure we're still at.
No, because we double checked
No,
that
it wasn't
also.
that. I just wanted to make sure budget-wise, that not only it was a given, but.
Correct.
Okay. So you don't have to ask for it again.
Right.
Right.
Nancy has her hand.
Nancy.
I think I just answered my own question. I was looking at that Mount Scottney wide and Windsor wide, and so I think the Mount Scottney is sharing people to both schools, and Windsor School is just sharing it to what? Oh, no, I still have my question. What's the difference between Mount Scottney wide at the top and Windsor wide at the bottom?
Windsor is someone who works just in Windsor School K-12, and Mount Scottney is someone that maybe does one day at Albert Bridge and 4 here or something like that.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
You're welcome. Benefits kind of goes along with the wages. So before I got sidetracked there, I was talking about the strategic plan and giving the money to the teachers that they need to move that strategic plan forward and how this nudging is working. So some of the things they've asked for is another interventionist. But at the upper level, they've asked for money for supplies in the middle school for that passion period for that last project. So,
More student voice and choice.
so more student voice and choice. At the high school, we started slowly with Ross doing project-based learning math, which happened to be at the height of the lumber increase. So we put the money in for that. And this year, we started out the school year with our traditional classes, and one of our teachers, Rob Johnstone, came forward and said, this isn't working. I'd like to redesign a class where students can now get their language arts and social studies credit out of one course that he works with the social studies teacher with. And then that frees that student up to get a period in the hub where they get academic support during the day. So they kind of pivoted mid-year and got that going. So we put money into the budget to have to be able to buy more resources or supplies to meet needs like that, because we want to look at doing a math science class that same way next year. And it's for the student that comes into school. It's to build student engagement. It's for the kid that comes into school and this bang, 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 I'm going to 7 classes, have 7 different assignments. It's not working for them. And we got a new science program. So there was kind of an increase in what we've asked for before in supplies, not major, which this budget's very consistent across the board. But I did want to point that out, that that's kind of where we're going in terms of reaching the strategic plan. Bill?
Yeah, a side credit. Does Windsor High School still have credit-based graduation requirements?
So we do. And we tweaked it a little during COVID so that kids wouldn't be punished for, missing sort of the school. But we do have credit-based requirements, and we're meeting those, and we will continue to meet those through the combined courses.
Right. I was just wondering because the state doesn't require it anymore. Hartford does, but as well.
Contracted services is down. That's another one that's worth noting because we're hiring so many people in-house.
Wow.
Instead of contracting out to HCRS, we now hire them.
Right. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. This one's an easy one thanks to Larry back there and his 5-year plan that he's already shared with us. So this is just kind of a...
Wait, there was a blue. It's Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Kate, I was wondering, since we have a lot of the mental health professionals in-house, I heard you said it's been great. In what way has that worked for both students and staff?
So I can tell you why I said it's great and how it works for me, because we have what we call coordinated service plans meetings, right? And this is just the first example off the top of my head. And they take a lot to coordinate. And in the state truancy protocol, it says once you have 15 days, we'll offer you this plan, and we offer it to parents. And if a parent wants more support, we have this meeting. They take a lot to coordinate because it's outside agencies. It's the BARD program, it's DCF, it's HCRS. And in the past, if we had a contracted somebody from HRS, we couldn't put that organizing that meeting, that school to home coordination, we couldn't put that on their plate. Their job was strictly to work with students. That's how we were billed. That's how they were billed. But now that our clinicians are here, that kind of coordinated service plan, and we recognize the amount of work it is, we can split that. We can say, hey, Julia, do you mind coordinating this one? I'll coordinate this one. So in that sense, it's been a lot easier for me. And the student access to the clinicians has been way easier. You could walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I want to give you a rundown of the student. I already talked to their parent. They'd like to meet with you today, and it's right there. They look at their calendar and say, sure, does 10 o'clock work? And yes, it does. So just those 2 things have been tremendously easier this year.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So these slides are just in here for you to look and come back with us for any questions of anything glaring. But like I said, we've been really consistent.
I just shared it with all the board members.
Thank you.
And our tuition, we will continue to pay tuition 9th grade. We're in 9th grade year right now, so 10th, 11th, 12th. And then that will be down. You can see our books and supplies is up. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you just go back to tuition? Sure. So let's see. A 56. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Our books and supplies, and this goes out to the teachers saying, like, is there anything, like when the science department needs a printer, we need a printer, and the ink for it is a lot of money. So this goes out to the teachers first and say, hey, this is what you asked for last year. This is what you spent last year. These are the numbers we were looking at for this year. Is there anything else you need to go along the way? But we're really hoping to move along by getting them what they need to follow to meet the goals of the strategic plan. And this is kind of the bottom line. It is a 3.5 increase right now. So this is our, kind of our working budget. Ed won't have the numbers, I believe he said, till January of what tax increases will look like.
Right.
And Colleen, you're up to kind of.
I think we've mentioned one of the big differences in the wages is that we had to put the positions in a line item, and most of them fell into the elementary school. But there are at least 2 positions that will be shared across the SU, but that's just the way it's built as K through 6 in the budget.
Wait, did you just say shared across the whole SU?
I guess I mean the K6 and the 712. The K6 position where it said Windsor School, the numbers were
Right.
wages. It's because of that, the way it's billed at K6.
But not shared. Those
Not
positions
across
are-
the SU,
They're
just in Windsor.
across the
Yeah.
district.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did want to say about what is shared across the SU, we are looking at more ways to work together, and we're doing that right now with Mr. McPhillips in the school counselor position, 1 day a week here. And anytime we can solve a plan, whether it's a van or a person or where their needs are, we work together to make sure we can help each other out for what students need. And so, starting with the 6th graders coming over for passion period, we had a plan at the beginning. We're now kind of backing up a little bit, taking it a little bit slower, but have a plan for 2nd semester. So this is just telling us how it's broken out, but I would say the piece that really stands out for me in this budget is the collaborative work that we do and the collaborative practices that we're doing with all the kids. And that whether it's mental health or trauma informed or conflict resolution, we're always modeling the collaboration. Even if it's one student who's struggling, we're modeling collaborating a team for them, collaborating trusted adults for them. If it's a whole class who wants to have a dance party, we're collaborating together to just put that voice in there. So I feel like collaboration is a huge piece of our budget and making sure like the pieces that Christine's bringing to our team and helping us with the walkthroughs and having more staff doing walkthroughs of each other so we can look at that data and collaborate together. The staff, the teachers are the ones who are giving us the ideas to help improve their instruction. I just feel like collaboration is our thread through this whole budget.
That's great. I've got a question. When you have a position like Annalise Ennis's position, and she's employed by ABS, but she also spends a day a week here?
No,
She doesn't?
no, Andrew McPhillips is.
Okay, when you have a position like Andrew McPhillips, who is employed by ABS, does he get reimbursed by the Windsor, or does ABS get reimbursed by the Windsor?
We only have one budget.
We only have one budget.
We only have one budget.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay.
So for that, it
So is
doesn't
he, but is he on the?
matter. He's under ABS,
He's under ABS.
but he spends a day here. And last year we had Jessica Vivian who was here, but spent a day there.
Right.
Since it's all the same budget, we didn't feel like we needed to like move.
Put it in a
numbers in.
specific area.
Right,
Okay.
it just seemed like it made it more complicated, make them like a 0.8 and then a 0.2 in one position, especially if at some point they do hire somebody.
Yeah, because both times when Jessica went over there 1 day a week or Maureen went, and that was the thing, like Maureen went over there 1 day a week and then we switched out and Jessica went over there 1 day a week. And
Library.
Andrew coming over here 1 day a week, they all arose just from a need at the moment.
No, I know, yes,
Um,
I agree. I mean, I get that. But I'm just thinking about how, like, when you say we have X many full-time positions and X many 0.2 positions, where the 0.2s
Where the
where the
going.
0.2s are going and how it's accounted for. Not money going out or in, but, you know, how it's broken out.
Yeah, so we have not put together anything formal like that. As far as I know, we didn't need to. We certainly can look at it that way. And anytime we go outside of district, we can do like a bill back. So I know like before we shared somebody at one school that would be paid. So like, for example, like our art teacher, for example, could be paid through the Weathersfield school and then we reimburse them 0.4, right?
Right.
That kind of thing. So you can do that when you're outside of the district. And that's cleaner to look at. But I think what we're doing is we're just being really flexible. Our teachers are being flexible and we're just trying to fill up the needs with, I don't want to say triage, but it's a little bit like triage. And then if at some point some amazing counselor comes up, they won't need it just
Yeah.
pull it back and go back.
No, yeah, and again, I commend your collaborative nature, and I appreciate that. I think every year it's been how many, or maybe not every year. At some point, at least one point in the past, but I think for several years in the past, there was a breakdown of how many FTEs there were at each school and how many point ones and whatnot. And I just was wondering how that squares when some people are spending time at each school.
I stopped doing it, because it doesn't make sense with who we are now.
It's strengthening that we're in the Mascutney School District. We're
Good.
not doing it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Good. Carry on, I'm sorry.
Who's got the clicker? I have the clicker, but it should be the last person with the clicker.
Yeah.
I mean, this was it was
questions?
consistent.
Ideas, things.
I have a question, and it goes all the way back, you don't have to bring up any slides. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It was about,
That's for the people looking, if you want to put it to the next slide, they can look at the big idea. The white one.
Yep.
Jennifer, you mentioned Manascutney Mentors. What is that?
So
Is that
Mascutney County Mentors, they are a group of, it's an organization that's housed here in Windsor.
is it formerly Windsor County?
Yep.
Okay.
Windsor County.
Yeah, they changed their name again. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, looking at the overall budget, it looks good. The only concern that I have is the fact that taking a 32% jump in energy costs.
One we didn't work on.
in
I love that it's one that we can't
One we
control.
did not do.
Oh, I know I can't control, but I'm wondering, why. Wondering if any juniors or seniors in there might want to look at a capstone at researching bioheat as an option for, like someone did for solar, for an option for the Windsor schools and Albert Bridge. Modern wood heat is, has significantly updated over the past 10 years, and is a great cost stabilization feature that many schools, St. Johnsbury is the latest one who's updated their heating system and went completely with wood.
I think it's a great idea. Like, if there were students who were interested in doing that,
Is it wood pellets, Bill?
No, wood pellets aren't really cost effective because they get in high demand. But when you have a large building like the Windsor schools in particular, dried wood chips is a really economical and energy efficient use of wood. For the most part, it's waste wood. And when you use it, modern wood boilers now are gasification. So 90% of the smoke, so to speak, is water vapor. So it's not the old billowing wood furnace of old of toxic waste coming out of its top. It's modern furnaces actually burn all that.
And there's actually, there actually is a federal grant for that right now, as part of the infrastructure grant.
And there's a lot of there was a lot of grant money. I don't in Vermont. I don't know if there still is, but just something for maybe a capstone project or for a student to kind of look into, and I'd be willing to help.
Great.
We will definitely volunteer you, but students get to have their voice and choice first.
Is that Rebecca?
Rebecca.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
Thank you. I wanted to just comment on a couple of things. I appreciated very much the roadmap that was presented today, the 30-foot view, and then bringing it down. I also appreciated very much that this plan is a plan that the community was involved in creating, because it was connected to the strategic plan, and that was really made extremely clear. And so I think that many community members hopefully will remember their part in bringing this to fruition. And so I wanted to thank the presentation was, I thought, informative, presented in a way that most people could understand it. And so kudos. One of the questions I had, and I know that there was a little bit of talk some time ago, was looking at potentially a plan to work with maybe some of our students to mentor them around becoming either paraprofessionals or working to try and create that sort of opportunity for some of our seniors. And I'm wondering if anything can come out of that this year, and if not.
Bill?
Yeah, one of the things, Rebecca, I think to understand, I believe looking at certain contract language, a lot of to make that happen, I think a lot of that would have to be included in the next round of contract negotiations. If we're going to offer some sort of incentive for Windsor High School students or district students, I'm more interested in just focusing on Windsor High School students. That's why when I first brought it up, I brought it up in terms of this school board. I think we really need to have a group and to talk about how to make that possible within the existing contract, or have to wait until we move forward with the next rounds of contract negotiations to include that in that. And yeah, I think that's something to consider.
I think sorry, I didn't mean, I thought you were done.
I was, but sometimes I need a kick to stop talking.
Well, I don't mind doing that. I think these conversations are going to start organically right now at the high school, because like I had said, with Rob coming forward and saying this isn't working and we need to do something, and we don't need to recreate the tech center. We don't need to offer what they have. We don't need to recreate like special ed. We need a something different, something that's going to build student engagement for our students who are quite real in the fact of like, I'm going to go graduate high school. That's all I need. And then I'm going to work with my dad, or this is the job that I'm going to have. How do we still keep them engaged in school? And the teachers, Rob took kind of that first jump. Help me design this. How can we do this? Well, can we please do this? And everyone else is kind of jumping on board saying, hey, I think this is something we consider with math and science next year. We just started talking about what this can look like, because we already have to start building next year's master schedule in January. What can this look like? And I had already said to Christine and Colleen, can people live in two worlds? Can they teach traditional high school classes, 2 to 3, and then kind of come onto this alternate pathway, which would be an opt-in? And it's also Chris Rivet's action research this year. He's in the action research stage, and he's researching what this could look like in our building while still meeting Vermont state requirements. So I'm hoping maybe I can help you kind of move that next contract piece along. We'll have a lot of it ironed out before we even get there.
But I think the other piece about offering, as Rebecca said, something to students this year who might be interested, I don't think we even have to be looking at contract language to do the piece of introducing anticipated openings, mock interview, letting kids know what's coming up next year, kind of a first round of an informal interview of what this might look like if this were something you were interested in. Those things we can do as positions open and encourage that with our team here at school.
Rebecca?
I think that would be wonderful, Colleen. Because I don't know how many credits a paraprofessional would require in order to be in the school, but you know that many of your students graduate, and if they return to the school as a para, and they need several credits, they may even be credits that they can take over the summertime and just be available to you, come September. I don't know exactly what it is, but I understand that that there is a new program that that the state is offering. I'll find out more about it and I'll get you the information. But I think they were like offering $3,500 to students that are graduating. And you may have some students, if you can prepare them and let them know you potentially can have a job come September.
It's also something that Katie Ahern's been talking about, because we also, the sooner we have people in positions of support staff or roles that we are looking to fill next year, there's trainings that go along with that we want to have them to have. But also when we talk about the voice and the initiative for students to have what they want and everyone can be a leader, we are also really working very hard at getting our support staff who want to have advanced degrees and go back to school and supporting that as well. So we want to do that for any new hires as well, even if they're recent graduates.
And the state supports that as well. The state's got, new initiatives where if you are a support staff member, you can actually go as far as you want to, and with state tuition incentives.
We have a pretty amazing track record for hiring alumni, so we are very lucky.
Does anybody else have any questions about the budget? Would you mind taking stop sharing so I can see everybody's computer's dying? Thank you all. That represents a lot of hard work and a lot of.
I mean, we get to do the public part, but Ed and Larry are like.
Ed. Praises to Ed Connors publicly. Thank you to Ed Connors for supporting us to help us put it together every year.
Excellent.
It is great.
Thank you, Ed.
He does an amazing job.
Well, I love the way that you I love the holistic view of all of this. It gets better and better every
We're
year.
on the same team, and you guys wanted us
We're
to merge. We're merged. We're merging. We're merged. We're collaborative. You're stuck with us this way.
That's great. That's great. Good. Thank you. I see you growing. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about the budget?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to skip the board resolution for now, down to student representation. This is partly about an application that we have received for a student board member. That's one thing. And I don't know, is that student on here? I think I saw him on
He
here.
was, I don't know.
Elizabeth on here.
Is,
Hey.
you are here, good. So we need to talk about how, what the deadline is for applications and whether we can interview Hudson to be on our board and sit at our table. And the second thing is that I haven't been able, because I wasn't here last month, at the Vermont School Board Association meeting in October, I had a realization that really we need to have a student rep on our board as a member of our board, but we also as board members ought to consider going to where the students are and seeking their input. It can be really intimidating for a student to come before a board. We have Hudson who's, who feels comfortable doing it, but not everybody does. And I would really love for us to consider taking turns going into the school and seeking input from students. They love, likewise, a chance to be able to do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we have a lot of options that we can talk about. I personally, Christine and I, Colleen, fun of fact is just go down and have lunch with the kids.
Yeah, right. Great. So
you learn a lot in the lunchroom.
Yeah.
It's just kind of open up.
I think we should consider taking turns doing that.
But we also have a lot of student leadership groups, which would be nice if we could set up a schedule so you can see the athletic leadership council, you can see Leader and Me leadership team, you can see the student council. That'd be nice. I'd love to help you set up a schedule to do that.
That would be great. I have to say that the God's honest truth is that starting January 4th, I really am only available on Mondays. Do it on a Monday. I know it's not the ideal time for you to have me in the building.
They have to eat on Monday.
Yeah, we eat every day. I mean, I like Taco Tuesdays, but whatever. Monday's okay.
Rebecca, I see your hand.
There's a lot of feedback, I think, coming from Hudson.
He's muted now.
You got it.
Okay. One of the things that I recall when you and I visited the students was that they were invited to come to the school board, and that we were not only inviting those in leadership positions, but we wanted to make sure that all students had voice. And so when we put together the list of those groups that can be represented, I'm just wondering how we can brainstorm to make sure that they're not the only voices that we're hearing at the school board meetings.
I think the lunchroom is the key to that. And I also think coming here, what I hate most about my life is that it's overscheduled, right? My kids are overscheduled, I'm overscheduled. Hudson's at a game of some sort right now, but this is important to him, so he's logging in. And I try to alleviate adult stresses from kids, and I don't want them to be overscheduled and feel like, oh my God, now I have to get to this board meeting just to be heard. So I love the idea of coming in and having lunch.
Right.
No, I think it's fantastic.
So, and they express that when I
And they're
go to as
great.
many student council and meetings as I can, and when we talked about it, they asked, what does it mean? And I said, well, it's a board meeting every month. It's a couple hours minimum. You can come in remotely. You don't have to be in person. And the sense that you get from them is they are overwhelmed with all of the things on their plates. And so I love the idea of going into the school and meeting where they're at. It's a great idea.
Yes.
I was just going to throw in there that I think, and you kind of brought this up initially, but I think it really does reduce the perceived power distance.
Yeah, right.
Going to where students are and kind of seeing them like, just being around, chatting with them. I mean, it's a lot less. For one thing, it's just lunch, so it's not like they have something else being thrown in their schedule, but it's also a lot less pressure than, like this can be.
Coming
super
to them
intimidating.
on their level, where their stuff
exactly-
is, where their things are, where their.
That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah, it's meeting them in their space and
They
kind
have
of.
I always call it home field advantage.
Yeah.
Home field advantage here.
Yeah, for real.
And once you build relationships with them, they're gonna tell you everything.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff you don't even want to know.
Rebecca's hands up. Rebecca?
I think, and I agree with everything said, but I also feel that we want to stretch them, and that we want to show them that you're going to have to look at your schedule, and I know that that's easy for me to say, but their schedule is pretty packed. But that and look at your schedule and say, can I take, one day of one day? It doesn't, because they don't ever have to come back again, but one day of the year to come before my school board in my community to share one day, 1 hour. We can create a situation that it's a win-win, not only for them, but for us. But I think we want to give them the opportunity to be stretched so that, and prepare them to be able to be in situations that can be a bit stressful, but that one, they can overcome, and also their voice can be heard. So, but I agree, meeting them where they at. I'm a MSW, so the theme was always meeting the person where they're at. But I think also we do want to. I feel we want to stretch them a little bit, and I don't think to ask them one day, one out of the year, is asking a lot.
I think it's an equity issue. Like, there's a lot of people who I don't want to show my house on camera, right? So I can't come in remote. I don't want my house background noise on your camera, so I don't want to come in remote. I can't get a ride there at night, or I have to work at night, or I have to babysit at night. I think coming and seeing them just evens the playing field.
Well, I think we're taking a several pronged approach. By going into this school and talking with students, they may feel more comfortable approaching us anyway if they want to. And we'll have a student rep on the board, and we'll have it all.
Yeah.
I think the equity framework, and I appreciate you brought that up, because I agree with what you're saying, Rebecca, and I also think that coming into the school is important, and having both of those doors open is really important, because then students, you're right, students work, students might not want to show their home environment to, be recorded in a public meeting. That's all completely understandable.
Yep.
But if you have those multiple opportunities for engagement available, then you are leveling the playing field, right? So, and what I think too, and what I suspect is that if members of this board become a little bit more familiar in those student settings, in that kind of home field, and students are able to have some of the conversations about what is the board? What do you talk about? What kind of decisions are you making? I think it demystifies it a little bit, and then some students who maybe do have are able to make it to these meetings and might have some interest but don't really understand what it is, you could open that door a little bit more too.
Yeah.
I think it can all kind of work together. I think all these various ideas sort of buoy each other. So I think it's a great conversation. So I'd love to take part.
Yes, Hudson.
I really think that having this student rep will bridge the gap in having that leeway of communication between students of the board, and they can kind of view a student rep as kind of a way to hear their voices, even if they are not comfortable presenting their input to the board directly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that brings us to the other part of the student representation, which is what is the deadline for applying to the board? Is there a deadline?
Well, it's been out for a while,
Yep.
and we've had one applicant.
Yep.
I think we can still post, I mean, talk to the kids about it if you want more reps. Going forward, it'd be nice to have two, but we have one person that's very interested. And I don't think we should delay much longer. And
Well, if we delayed longer, then we'd be interviewing him in January, which isn't really fair to him. So,
yeah, and it's been out there. I mean, the applications have gone out, the kids know about it.
So, so what do we want to do? Do we raise your hand, board members, if you can stay for a few minutes to have an executive session this evening where we interview our one candidate? Okay. Bill, you cannot? You can? You cannot? Yes, you can't.
No, you can't.
Bill, can you stay for a minute or not?
I don't know.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
are you able to send me an invite so I can dial in?
I am not, but I
Right
think-
now, I'll send it to him.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Champ. That I really appreciate that.
Yep. Okay. So we will interview you at the end of this meeting, Hudson.
All right.
Is that all right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hudson is multitasking.
Yeah.
I think that's great. He's going to be.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Okay. And student-teacher blind feedback on high school culture is the next. That was also about student voice, but I wondered whether we could have a survey sent out about that culture in the high school. That's
I think
blind.
if we were, I think we're a little bit surveyed out right now. But I think if we were transparent of what we're gonna use it for, right? Because we just did the panorama. The kids are forever, I just got one today from another kid, are forever sending out surveys. for Everything.
They did
For their
equity one too.
We did the equity one for their
And equity
capstone
one.
project. We want to do the Getting to Why. We want to get that group together.
That's about culture too.
Yeah, and that's about culture. And then we want to
Okay.
put together our student group. I think it might be a little overkill right now to do one more.
I totally hear that. I'm just curious, did you have a survey tool in mind that you were looking at? 'Cause it does sound like a lot of the kind of culture questions get addressed, maybe not all in one place, but sort of piecemeal.
The Getting to Why. I'm calling it Getting to Why. That's not what it's called. The youth risk behavior survey focuses on the culture.
And that should be out in January, but it doesn't take into account teachers.
I would almost like to see, like during midterm week, based on like an individual. I always say this to people, I get the luxury of talking to people a lot and one-on-one and getting feedback. And I hear a lot of, this place feels really good, this classroom feels really good, or this one doesn't feel really good. I'd almost be interested in a survey that teachers could use, right? So now it feels like there's some ownership over it, there's some control. The teacher can give it at the midterm of their class and get the feedback about their culture in their classroom. And I think we did a nice job modeling that, of sending out anonymous staff surveys for our staff to feel anonymous about how we do. Now we're asking you to do the same at the midpoint. Send out to your students about the culture in your classroom, and if your learning styles being me. And then we have something specific that a teacher can have from the students that they don't even need to show it to us. They don't even need to show us the answers. Just tell us one goal they got out of that survey. That might feel more useful than another broad survey. That's just.
We're just into a lot of surveys right
Yeah.
now.
Yep.
Because we're doing the panorama social emotional survey,
Yeah.
we're doing a leader in me survey, we're doing give us feedback survey, we're asking teachers to do walkthroughs and kind of give feedback to each other. So there's at least 4 going on right now.
We really don't want
A lot of
the
information, which is
quality of
great.
the responses to decrease too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, because that's.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I
You're always
think
doing
from
it.
all the surveys we have out there, we have enough to work on. So,
Yeah.
let's focus on that.
Rebecca, I see your hand.
I'm just wondering, because I know that most of the most of what's going on in the schools are basically presented by the administrators, and I think that it would not be. I'm wondering if the board on some level can just get a flavor of some of the feedback that is coming back from the teachers and the students in some way. I don't know how that would happen, but it would, we don't really get to hear much from the teachers or from the students. We're now going to have a student rep, which is great. And even when we go into the schools to visit, we hear from the students in the classrooms, and so I'm just wondering if there is a way for the board to hear, to find out what some of that feedback from the teachers and the students are that that administration is receiving.
I don't know if you could ever take a day or half a day, but I feel strongly that everyone should shadow a student for a day.
I
Shadow a student for 3 classes.
I would
Yeah,
really
genuine.
that idea. Yeah.
And you'll get the panorama data, you'll get the MRA, that's the measured results assessment data. I know our goal as lead learners is to somehow really dive into that, and we started this at our last principal meeting, looking at the data from staff about how we're doing as leaders, and sharing that back out in some way with staff and setting an action based on the data. So I don't think we're not hiding anything. Certainly share that out. We're all a work in progress. So I think we can figure that out, Rebecca, to share that information.
Yeah. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's important. It's good modeling.
Yeah.
It really is good modeling. So.
So the model school board resolution, I would like to wait to talk about it when Amy is here because she had some strong feelings about it. Would everybody else be all right with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Then we don't have any items for action, do we?
No.
Okay.
No, you'll come back next month with the budget. We'll have to take action next month on that.
Yep. So our next agenda will include the model school board resolution.
Okay.
And speaking of getting to yes, maybe, I think, since it'll be January, the YRBS survey should be out. So maybe we can have somebody come and walk through that with us.
Okay.
And because I think.
Is the kids going to look at that survey data with the with MIMA from MAP?
So
it's from, it's from Up for Learning, right?
Yeah, they'll be trained to look at it, a group of students where it is as hard to get students to do it as it is to get them to do the board. So I've kind of targeted a couple who and offered them a health credit. You can get your health credit through this way. You can get your community service. I'm looking at what they need and then saying this is what you'll get from it. So I have about 3 biting right now, but ideally would like 6.
How long, what is that process? What's the timeline? I'm just wondering, it would be great to maybe tap into those students that are looking at the results as well.
What's the timeline for that training? I mean, ideally would give them 6 names by the 16th, this Friday.
And then they're going to look at it and then review it and come up with a plan based on the data.
Yeah.
And that'll take a while.
That'll take a while.
Yes, Rebecca.
If Hudson, could he be part of something like that? Especially since he would, if he's elected to be part of the board, but can he be part of something like that?
I mean, he can, but he's one of the leaders of Leader in Me. He's a student council, then it'd be on the board, and we're looking. The recommendation for the Getting to Why is the students who are part of the problems are part of the solutions. So that makes, I'm trying to say this nicely on a public meeting.
That's getting to yes.
Getting to Why, yep.
Getting to why, sorry.
But if that report is out before the next meeting, I can bring in the YRBS.
The YRBS,
Yeah.
yeah.
We have our meeting tomorrow, don't we? We have a monthly meeting with
Thursday.
Mima now.
Yeah, Thursday.
From
Okay.
MASD. It's been great.
So do you think we could have somebody regardless come and talk to us about getting to why?
Yes.
Which is different from YRBS.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we have YRBS, if the YRBS is out,
yeah,
let's have that too.
Okay.
But regardless.
Got it.
To why.
That would be great.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. And the budget. And that's 4 things.
That's enough.
Doubtless something else will come up.
There's always something to talk about.
Yeah. And maybe we should add something to our agenda, reporting out what we've learned from the students.
Yeah.
Okay. And so between now and next meeting, I will send emails out to everybody seeing what people's availability is to come into the school and talk to the students. Of course, there isn't that much time between now and our next meeting.
Did you say what you've learned from the students from the schedule we're going to create?
Yeah. Okay.
Our concerts are this week. Our elementary concerts tomorrow. Our high school concerts the next day. Matt Meager had a granddaughter and Jillian Moore had a daughter.
Oh.
Kind of news right there.
Lots of exciting stuff.
And the
Florida
12th night, middle school performance of 12th night on
The 20th.
20th. Thank you.
The high school play was good.
It was great.
And Albert Bridge has 2 concerts on the 20th.
One at 1 o'clock and one at 5:30.
Yes. And what's the other thing? There was one more.
It's the same time.
They're concurrent, unfortunately.
Okay. But you have the 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Okay. Thinking whatever the other one was. Oh, I know what it was. What's the name of the student who's going to be part of
Amanda
the?
Riley, she's going tomorrow.
I know.
Amanda Riley.
I'll be there
Youth
tomorrow.
Council.
Oh.
So exciting. Yep.
So just wanted to say her name one more time. And I'll be there tomorrow. I'll try to find her.
Great.
Okay. Are there any objections to my ending the meeting now at 8:20?
We're doing an executive session?
Yeah, I'm going into executive session. Sorry. Are there any objections to my having us go into executive session? Hearing none. Rebecca, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
And I am an aye. So
I will stop the recording.
Okay.
And
Good job.